Well, I want to welcome everyone here. Nice to be with you. Nice to be here. So we have this odd little dilemma that's been going on through human beings as far back as history goes. And this sort of dilemma, this existential dilemma, is really the heart of what spirituality is all about. And it's for millennia, as far back as you can go. Human beings have been wondering, how can I feel better? How can I escape this sense of being trapped in one's own psychology? Do you know what I mean? Being sort of stuck in your own little psychological bubble, the little storyteller chattering away in your head, and some days telling you that everything's really good, and then other days telling you everything is really not so good at all, and terrible. And for millennia, people have noticed this immense tendency to get locked, trapped in this little psychological bubble. And then they've sought ways to get out of it, to escape from it. And spirituality, in many ways, is a outgrowth of that phenomena, of the phenomena of this existential dilemma of people trying to escape from themselves. Funny enough as it may be. Your idea may or may not be to escape your own sort of little psychological bubble. Your idea may be to go somewhere better, to have a union with God or with Guru or with the universe or with who knows what. But of course, if a human being was not troubled in some way, it would never really occur to them to be at one with anything, would it? What would be the point? You know, if you're having a great day, feeling absolutely wonderful, day after day after day, moment to moment to moment, everything's really wonderful and fine, and you're not displeased, you're not unsatisfied, you're not looking for more, different, or better. What would be the point? And so whether one thinks they're trying to get away from something or get towards something, to something, God, Guru, whatever it may be, Nirvana, it's actually the same movement. Away from and toward. And that's where basically, in its most essential form, that's that impulse, that need, that desire is where spirituality, that's where it stems from. If you never felt like you were separate, you'd have no need for spirituality. What would be the point? So here we are. And we are just like millennia after millennia after millennia of other people, other beings with the same concern. Some of us may like that idea because we like the feeling of comfort and friendship, and other people have been endeavoring in this too for a long, yes. And some people may not like that, like, well, I'm not like the herd, I'm special, I'm doing something that nobody's ever done before. So you might have a different relationship with that idea. And of course that drive toward or away from, that drive to break out of the bubble of one's own little isolated view, That little one's own little psychology. That wanting to get out. And the intuition, because there is an intuition, the intuition that there's something more real. A lot of spirituality, it must be informed by a basic intuition that there must be something more real, more true, more satisfying than what tumbles around in my head. There certainly must be something more stable than what tumbles around in one's head. And so, this drive, if you simplify it, it's either a drive away from or toward. I want to get away from what I'm experiencing, how I'm feeling. I want to get away from this sense of separation, whatever it may be. I want to get away from the person I think I am. Who knows? Or I want to get toward. I want to get towards the person I want to be. I want to get towards nirvana. I want to get toward enlightenment. I want to get toward God. Does that make sense? So running away or running toward, it's all actually the same movement. Because, when you're running away from something, if you look in front of you, you're running toward something too, So it's not actually two different things. It's just the same movement from two different perspectives. Now, why am I starting off like this? I'm asking myself. No. Because it may seem, and it is very elementary. It may seem, and in many ways it is very elementary. But if you have an understanding of this very simple thing, that one is always moving away from or toward something. And that defines almost everybody's spirituality you'll ever meet. Right? Even when people say, I'm trying to be in the moment, it means they're trying to move toward the moment. I'm trying to be in the now. It's okay, I understand it. It's a good sort of instruction and everything, but I have yet to meet anybody who's actually managed to escape now. I've met a lot of people who've been right now because it's the only place they can actually be is now, dreaming that they're somewhere else than now. That's possible. You can be now imagining you're somewhere else and then struggling to get back to now. So in that sense, the sort of direction to be in the now is a great direction if it's understood correctly. You see? But of course, this whole moving towards and moving away from, it is the dance of duality. It is the dance of illusion. That's the dance. That is the whole dance. The dance of Maya, the dance of illusion, the dance that creates a sense of separation, the dance that creates a sense that one is trapped in their own little psychology, the dance that gives you the perception that you're essentially different and very separate and isolated from the world and the people around you. It is actually this movement of running away from or running towards. That's the dance. Simple enough, isn't it? That's what creates all the problem. That is the dance of illusion. Without that dance, no illusion. That's what it does. That's how it weaves its magic. And an amazing magic it is, wouldn't you say? Amazing magic it is. It's magical that you can wake up and for no reason have a bad day. You know those days when you're like, before your foot ever gets to the ground and anything actually happens, you're just cranky and irritable, and it's just, this day's really going to suck. A bad day, or a bad week, or a bad month, or a bad year, or a bad lifetime. Subsequently, you can wake up, and for no apparent reason, before your foot hits the floor, it just feels good. It's a good day. No apparent reason. Nobody said they loved you yet, or praised you at work, or, your cornflakes didn't taste particularly good that morning. It just an uncaused satisfaction. So this push and pull is the most crucial thing to understand. Because if you don't understand it, guess what all of your spiritual life is going to be about? The entirety of it, every minute of it, is going to be about moving away from something, mostly yourself, moving towards something. Who knows what that will be? Nirvana, enlightenment, happiness, God, whatever. Right? Moving away from yourself, moving away from life, moving away from death, moving away from whoever. Yourself, your family, your loved ones. And since this sort of movement, or just sitting there in the quietness of your own, I was going to say the quietness of your own mind, but that's rather rare. But in the space between your ears, let's say, just sitting there in the space between your ears, and you can spend a lifetime trying to run away from it. People's entire spiritual lives can actually boil down to nothing more than trying to run away from what happens between their two ears. Have you ever done that? Like 3 people going, yeah, I've done that. The rest going, I hope he doesn't catch. It's a human thing, right? It's a human thing. Even if you meditate, okay, what am I doing? Well, I'm sure not trying to be where I am now. I'm trying to get to now, but I'm hoping that it's a very different now than now is. Right? So we'll give the desirable now big desirable names, whatever. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a different now than now. Right? And if I can just get to that now, as opposed to this now, that now will be better. And if I can learn how to stay in that now is going to be better than this now. Does this all start to sound ridiculous to you after a while? That's because it is. But if you're not very careful, your whole spiritual life can end up being one ridiculous pursuit. Mine was for years. For years. And I think most people's is for years. Because we are all very human. We all kind of do the same things for a long time. So this game is very compelling. It's extraordinarily compelling. If I can get somewhere other than here, if I can feel something other than what I feel, if I can experience something other than what I experience, if I can change it, alter it, break through it, jump off the cliff, break through the gateless gate, have the most unimaginable, mind-bending, awakening experience that humanity has ever known, then I can rest. I know I'll stop when that happens. Right? I promise I will. Have any of you had some of those? You, of course, have had some of those, some sort of experiences a little bit. Right? whatever they may be. They just may be waking up on a good side of the bed, or they may be the sudden understanding of all the cosmic forces throughout all time and space. They're not actually much different, those two experiences, by the way. They're all bound by the wheel of impermanence. They come, they stay for a while, and they go. Leave you wanting more. And that's the deception of it all. Keeps the game going. As long as you're running towards something and away from something, the game of illusion continues. The game of illusion doesn't care what you're seeking. It really doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're seeking $1 million, great recognition, to be loved, or to be enlightened. The game of illusion doesn't care. All it cares is you're seeking something or running away from something else. That's all it cares about. It's all it registers. It doesn't matter if someone's chasing a carrot or $1 million, does it? They're chasing. So this game that illusion has going is very, very magical. So, if you understand this game, if you're willing to understand the game, that's a big thing for people. If you're willing to understand it, if you're willing to see it, because there's, in many human beings, almost every human being, there's great resistance to actually seeing the nature of illusion. Everybody says, I want truth, but how many people want to see the nature of illusion, right? Because it's seeing the nature of illusion that stops you. That's what stops you. Kind of takes your breath away, like, that's what I've been doing? If you see the nature of it, it'll stop you. It kind of shocks you a little bit. Like, oh, God. And then for other people, there's no way they're going to let themselves see that. No. I will keep chasing. I will keep running. I will keep seeking. I'll keep striving. I'll get there, and I have lots of proof and lots of things that will tell me that I will succeed. In which case I say, great, seek harder. Seek all the way out. Be like a marathon runner that starts off like a 100-meter sprinter, so that you exhaust yourself quickly and efficiently. I mean, that's what I did, by the way. I exhausted myself. 4 or 5 years is pretty quick and efficient. By spiritual standards, but I wouldn't recommend it. Actually, I fear that a lot of you have actually done that. In which case you're in good company. Because everybody else in this room has done the same. Every single person in this room. Every single one of us. So the best way to get trapped in illusion is to try to escape it. Isn't that ironic? It's the best way to get trapped. The best way to get trapped is to think about ways to not be trapped. And the most perfect way to be trapped in illusion is to be convinced that you know the way out. That's high illusion. That is like Einstein illusion. Right? I know that what I'm doing is going to get me out of the trap of illusion. I know it's going to work. Has it worked? No, but I know it will. That's the highest form. So the best way to stay trapped is to try to get away. Ironic. Who would have thought? The best way to stay trapped in who you imagine yourself to be is always trying to be somebody different. Something different. Something better. Maybe it's more spiritual, more enlightened. Maybe it's actually less spiritual, less enlightened. Who knows? The best way to stay stuck in the confines of your own illusory self is to be constantly trying to get out of those confines. If you get that, and I know I've said this before, I think a lot of you, probably the majority of you have seen me before, probably listened to me, more than you may want to admit. But this is an easy thing to forget, isn't it? I mean, you can be totally convinced 1 minute, and 30 seconds from now, you can totally forget it as the pursuit takes over. It's amazing. You've got to be impressed with illusion. Truth is powerless. Truth just like, it's just waiting, you know? That's it. Maybe waiting for exhaustion or some strange reason why the pursuit or the avoidance ceases, and then it shines through. But illusion, that's actually much more impressive. It's not better, it's just more impressive. So the best way to stay trapped is to try to get away. It's like quicksand, you know. You want to sink quickest in quicksand, struggle to get out of it. Right? So what do we do? And by the way, this isn't just an elementary teaching. Sounds elementary, and it is. I mean, in one sense, it is elementary, but it's not just elementary. This is also a teaching for a lot of the people in this room who've had very powerful spiritual awakenings outside of separation, to oneness, to presence, to the whole thing. Maybe very big, maybe very subtle. But those of you who have had, a lot of you may also have recognized that even when you have those very experiences can generate later the exact same game. How do I hold on to it? How do I maintain it? How do I get it again? I don't want this experience, I want that one. I was in heaven last week and I want to get back. You see, so just because you have one of those big breakthrough experiences does not necessarily mean this game ceases, does it? It might. It might if you've actually woke up from the whole game. But it might not. So this isn't just elementary. This is actually a very deep, subtle, and profound thing. And when you stop trying to get away from yourself, or you stop trying to get towards something, whatever one is working towards, when you stop doing either one of those, you start to come upon a sort of inner anxiety, discomfort. It's like, I can't just be. If I don't pursue, I might not get there. If I don't resist, I might stay where I am, and I don't want to be there. So, see, there can be a sort of an anxiety. Either that or an overt resistance, but even just a mild discomfort, like, oh, this isn't where I wanted to be. And when you see that as just the same game, it's just either more pushing away or running towards. People ask me all the time, what do I do about it? Right? Which means, how do I push it away or how do I get somewhere else? That's what do I do means, translated into less impressive language, right? How do I not be here? But see, the doing is more getting away from, isn't it? Or running towards. All the doing, here's what to do. All the doing will be translated as a way to not be where you are and a way as to get to some other place. It's not so much what do I do, but what do I realize? It's the deep existential understanding. Existential in the way I'm using the word right now is more like a understanding with your whole being. Not just in your head. It starts in your head, but it has to go to your whole being. Aha. All the new and varied forms of trying to get away from or get toward. And you see them. Aha. Like you get onto yourself. You catch yourself. Aha. Oh, I see. Very good. Caught myself pursuing again. Trying to get away from. People pursue in different ways. Some people pursue emotionally. They're always looking for a different experience, right? I want to have a different emotional experience. I'm looking to have better emotional feelings or a cathartic experience. Other people will be pursuing intellectually. I want to understand everything. I want to think about it. I want to comprehend everything in my mind. Different people are hooked up different, They avoid the moment in different ways. So this weekend is actually about through the understanding, not because I'm saying to, because then that's just a technique, but because you actually see, you understand the nature of suffering, which is to always be moving away from suffering or away from anything and towards something else. That's the nature of suffering. That's what causes suffering, causes separation, causes this illusion that somehow you're separate from the divine ultimate reality. It's the only thing that can create the sense that you're separate from the divine ultimate reality. If there's no moving away from and there's no moving towards, there's nothing that can create illusion. Because we don't get to the ultimate. Because the ultimate is already happening. Right? Your butt on the floor, in the chair, is ultimate already happening. Reality is already happening. Nirvana is actually where you're hanging out right now. Whatever you want to call it, right? Union with God happened before you even thought of the idea of union with God. Actually, as soon as you thought about union with God, you created the illusion that there wasn't union with God. That somehow there could be separation. And then a reunion, a homecoming. Very romantic, isn't it? I've separated myself from God, and we will come into great union. Romantic, but nonsense. Union is already a fact. Oneness is already a fact. The rest is just a dream. And it gets created by running away from something inside or outside and running towards something inside. As soon as that stops, everything is revealed. It's hard to even imagine that until you've known it, until you've experienced it. It's hard to imagine it. But most good things happen when you stop your pursuit, when you stop running away from. Something of a completely different order can be revealed. reality simply reveals itself. That's all it does. It doesn't come into existence and you don't come towards it. You don't buddy up to it or unify with it or, I don't know, get into some tantric thing with the divine. It's been one from the very beginning. Nothing and nobody ever achieves separation, but you damn sure can convince yourself that there's separation, can't you? You sure can feel it. You sure can experience as if there is separation. Just like you can when you dream at night. You sure can feel like you're flying or being chased by a nasty monster or whatever's happening. But all you're doing is laying there in bed, conjuring it all up in your head. So if you can see for yourself, that's what I want you to be able to do. See for yourself what I'm talking about. Don't accept it or reject it. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If everyone went, I believe you, Adya, I'd go, well, doesn't make any difference. It's not going to help you to believe me. I disbelieve you. I think you're totally wrong. You know, we should all pursue many lifetimes until we get to nirvana. You know, fine, knock yourself out, have a good time. I don't want to get in anybody's way. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is, do you see for yourself? Through your experience, right? So that you're the authority. You're the authority of your experience, not me. That's another thing I want to impart at the very beginning. It's you. It's up to you. You're the authority of your experience. You're the one. You can look at it. You can make your own conclusions. Does that make sense? I know in the whole spiritual business with, enlightened people sitting before you that people think, I've just believed them because they said it and they're supposed to be enlightened. It said so in the brochure, or they have a nice look in their eye, or they look like they came from outer space or something, It's nonsense, though. Right? And so, therefore, what happens when you walk in with that attitude, even you don't even often know you even have the attitude, but when you walk in and you listen or you even read something with that attitude, all of a sudden you're in an attitude where you're just receiving information. Depending on how you're hooked up, you'll either decide that you believe it or disbelieve it, like it or don't like it. But that doesn't matter. That's just illusion too. What matters is everyone looking for themselves. Because see, what you look for yourself and what you see for yourself belongs to you. It doesn't belong to somebody. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to somebody that wrote a book. It doesn't belong to Buddha or Jesus or some other wise person that might have said it 2,000 years ago. If whatever you see for yourself belongs to you, you saw it. It's not borrowed. And in the enlightenment game, there is no such thing as riding to enlightenment on the coattails of someone else. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. The avatars can't even pull it off. All their devotees think they can, but they can't. Because if they could, they wouldn't have devotees. It would be like Walmart for enlightened, Come in, touch you out of the head, now you're done. Right? Boom. It's all, who would need to be a follower? So I'm always trying to impart, it's like, you can and you must look for yourself. To use a modern sort of hip phrase, it's very empowering when you realize you can do that. I'm just here to say, look at this, look at that. Are you sure you're not deceiving yourself there? Are you sure you're not deceiving yourself there? Really? Is that really true? Is it not? You have to come up with the answer. That's what a teacher does. So when you see this little piece about running away from something or running towards something creates the whole illusion of separation, isolation, feeling like you're stuck within your own psychology. Trying to run away from it is what makes you feel stuck in it. So that informs, for those of you who haven't been on a retreat with me before, that informs the whole approach that I have to sitting silently, better known as meditation. That's all it is. Don't grasp at anything. Don't push anything away. And you can't even help it sometimes, can you? All of a sudden, you're just sitting there. All of a sudden, you're grasping. Right? You didn't even decide to grasp, but you're grasping. Or you're avoiding. I don't like this. And you didn't even know you were avoiding. You didn't make any conscious decision to avoid. Have any of you had that happen, right? So before you're grasping, you're avoiding. Before you know it, you're just like sitting there, of course, looking very serene. Someone could take a picture of your psychic state. It would be, look like fireworks display, And so I know that most of this happens totally spontaneously. So people hear or read or listen to me when I talk about meditation, and I just say, let everything be. And what they hear is, my job is to let everything be. And then before you know it, you're sitting there and you're not letting everything be, right? Spontaneously. You didn't sit there and decide to not let something be. It just spontaneously spun and you're kind of... And then you think, I failed. I can't, God, only thing I'm doing is not allowing anything to be. But see, to meditate is actually just to watch. It's not even to try to be the watcher. You're not trying to be the witness. You're not trying to create distance. It's just watching. You ever gone out to nature and you watch something? You saw a deer and everyone, hush, deer. And you just watched. Right? Moves along the forest and eats some grass and maybe steps on a twig and you hear the crackle and might turn suddenly to look at you and everyone's just looking. That's watching. That's watching. It's simple. It's natural, right? You're not trying to manufacture a spiritual watcher. Right? I am now going to be the witness of all of my internal insanity. No. That's a subtle form of running away, right? What if you watched it like you watched that deer that you don't want to scare away? You're interested then, right? Ooh. Be quiet, I'm watching the deer. You're not like, I'm trying to be the watcher. See, the deer's over there. I'm over here. And there's this distance, and it feels good because I'm not in the deer's business. Right? So it just moves by like a river, and I'm free. And you see, it's nonsense. I mean, it might be okay at a certain rudimentary point, but you see how easy it is that our minds create images of things like just watching? They create an image and it's all spiritualized and you're trying to be the... And yet you forget that you've all watched things with interest. You've watched the deer, you've watched the sunset, you've watched something you're interested in, you've watched it, and you've been very quiet. You notice how when you're watching something like that, your mind is quiet? You ever noticed? If you go, oh, there's a deer. Your mind's quiet. Because you're interested in what you're watching. You're not even trying to quiet your mind. Remember the principle, if you run away from something or towards something, you generate illusion. So if you try to quiet your mind, what happens? Pretty noisy place to be, right? I'll tell you a secret. If you watched your mind like you watch a deer in the forest, quiet. Because then you're interested in what you're watching. What you're watching then is the most important thing in the world to you, and your mind quiets right down. You can watch anything. Watch your breathing. But watch it like you watch a deer, or watch a bird, or watch a sunset, or something you're captivated by. Watch it in a natural way. You get the feel of it? Remember, like a moment when you watched like that, when you looked at something. I don't know what you looked at. A child, a beautiful dress in the window, a Harley Davidson in the showroom. Who knows what it was that you're, oh, wow. That's watching. That's letting everything be. That's meditating. Get the feel? So your mind takes you on a vacation. So what? So what? You didn't decide it for the most part, probably did you? So what? Why get upset about something that you had no control over? Man, the day I realized that was stunning. Have you realized that yet? I mean, you may have heard it, but have you realized that yet? Man, the day I saw that, it just about rolled my socks off my feet without me touching them. Somebody that spent, hours a day meditating, trying to stop, control, focus the mind. And it hit me one day. It just hit me. Out of the blue. Grace. Call it what you will. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the thinking. They just come. My thoughts are that I don't want to think, but it doesn't seem to matter. Nothing seems to be listening to me. Right? Yeah. Your mind doesn't seem to be listening to your mind, right? God, it happens all by itself. What's the use in feeling bad about it then? That's silly. You don't feel bad because you breathe. I mean, that happens all by itself. Your heart beats by itself. You don't wish that would stop. Not too often anyway. It just happens. And again, as soon as you drop out of the game of trying to control it, resistant or indulgent, all of a sudden it quiets down quite a bit. So the whole of the spiritual life is very much like that. All the things that you're trying to get rid of are there because you're trying to get rid of them. Whether it's your mind or how you feel or resentment or anger or whatever it might be, feeling of being separate, distance from God, whatever. It's all there because you don't want it there. Now, you can't suddenly want it to be there. Okay, well, then I'll actually want to be separate. No. You can trick yourself, but you can't trick illusion. The illusion's much smarter than you or I. I mean, infinitely smart. You can't fool illusion. Illusion can fool you, and easily. But you can't fool illusion. You can't play games with it. So all you can do is see its nature. Aha! Every time I try to move away from it, it just generates more. And then there's a quietness. If you've ever had any kind of what they call spiritual experiences, most of which aren't awakening, by the way, but if you've ever had any kind of spiritual experience, you have it. Feels good. Most of them feel good. And then you want more. And you're trying to get more, and then you don't get it, right? And then either out of exhaustion, or you just forget to want it for a moment, and all of a sudden, there it is again. And then you think, how'd I do that? Well, I was wanting it just before it happened, but I wasn't wanting it when it happened. So then you go about wanting it again. And then you want it and you want it and you do things to recreate it. None of them work. And then you kind of get exhausted or you just forget to want and struggle and strive and all of a sudden it happens again. It's almost like a cruel cartoon joke. Until you start to see from a bigger perspective. Until you start to see, aha. The whole time I'm trying to make it happen, it doesn't happen. And for whatever reason that I stop trying, even for an instant, then something happens. Oh. And the understanding can stop you. There's a gap. Just a pause. You can actually feel that pause in yourself. But we don't trust that kind of pause, do we? That gap. A gap happens and mind says, how did I get here? How do I stay here? Just doesn't trust. One of the great spiritual poems of all time, written by you think I know, third patriarch, sixth patriarch, I forget. I think the third patriarch. The first lines, the great way, which means freedom, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. That's the kicker. Sometimes it's translated as the great way is neither easy nor difficult for those who have no preferences. Preferences doesn't mean like you got to stop liking chocolate ice cream more than vanilla or something, you know. Preferences means pushing, pulling, striving, grasping, pushing away, struggling, seeking. And you experience that in yourself. You experience that gap, that pause. if there's a surrender, it's the surrender into that pause. Just surrendering everything into that pause. And from that place, what you really, really, really are becomes apparent. Because nobody in this room, who you really, really, really are, isn't even the person who's trying to realize who you really, really, really are. That's not who you are. The person that's trying to get there and trying to realize it and trying to, who am I really, 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 who am I? The person that's doing that, that's not really who you are. That seeker, it's not really who you are. It's just an energy running through your system. It's just a thought stream. That's all it is. So you're not even the one that's trying to realize who you are. That's not you. Before that, during that seeking, and after that seeking, all of it, right in the middle of it, there's just a silent, aware presence. It's not seeking. It's not looking for anything. It's not waiting for nirvana or realization, awakening or enlightenment. It's not waiting for you to get your act together, get your mind quiet, change yourself, or enter any kind of altered state. That silent, aware presence is just there. It's just there. It's always been there. It's always been who we are, what we are. Always. All the rest is just convincing mental chatter. And there's nothing wrong with the mental chatter. There's nothing wrong with the person you thought you were, because it was just a thought. I mean, how can a thought be good or bad, really? I mean, painful or less painful, but that's all. Just that silent, aware presence. And if your mind says to you, where's that? What is that? What is he talking about? Let me just tell your mind, you don't have to understand. It's okay to ask the question, but then after the question, there's a question mark. Just live in the question mark, right? There's the silent aware presence right there. Just nothing to understand. It was never a theory or philosophy or anything. It's just silent, aware presence. That's all. Imagine that. Just imagine this whole thing's that simple. Kind of embarrassing, huh? You know what my teacher did when she recognized the silent, aware presence? She was at a retreat with her teacher, a well-known Zen teacher at the time. And, you still have a mind. Everybody's mind will react differently. Some will laugh, some will kind of cry, some will whatever. My teacher, she got pissed off. Which I love that because it's totally opposite of her character. She's a very well put together, wonderfully manicured woman, And she got pissed off and she ran in. She had a private meeting with her Zen teacher, and he was sitting there on the floor with his Zen stick, and the robes and the whole thing. And she went in and she grabbed the stick out of his hand. Now, mind you, when you go to see your master in a private meeting, there's a whole ritual. You go in the door, you bow, you go up to your master, you bow all the way to the floor, put your head to the floor. I mean, very, very respectful. She walks in, fit to be tied, grabs his staff, stands up, and she's just about to whack him over the head. And she thinks, you put me through all this for this? Because what she saw was, this had always been here. How could you have convinced me to kill myself, which you tend to do in Zen retreats, And of course he saw. Even through all that, he just looked up at her, he saw exactly where she was, and he just started laughing. Just a belly laugh. Laughing, tears coming down his eyes. So, of course, she started laughing and gave his stick back, and they had a great laugh. You mean this? This that we really are? It's not at the end of 15 lifetimes of spiritual practice. You don't earn your way there. There's whatever it takes to stop for just a moment. That's all. If it takes you 15 lifetimes to be convinced to just stop for a moment and see what you are, so be it. Have a great time. If it takes 2 seconds, fine. That's about 1.5 seconds more than necessary. And you get that taste. And your mind then might say, oh, that's so great. How do I hold on to that? And if you don't fall for it, you just go, bless your little heart. Good try. Good try. And it'll try 100 more times, 1,000 more times, 100,000 more times. You better hold on to this. You might lose it. Something might take it away. I can't go back to work, I'll lose it. If I could just be on retreat all the time, I'd never lose it. And it's easy to be convinced, is it not? Any of those stories, they're very convincing. They seem very reasonable. But none of them are true. You can't lose what you are, can you? I always tell people, forget about trying to maintain anything. You can't maintain reality. Forget about maintaining your awakening or whatever, your enlightenment. Forget that. If you're going to ask any question, ask yourself, how am I unenlightening myself right now? Since enlightenment is nothing but reality. Right? So what's always and already happening. It is who and what you always and already are. Always. So there is no way to get to what you are, is there? There's no place to arrive at being. If you're already there, how are they going to get there? Imagine your feet asked you what direction they needed to walk to come and to find themselves. Imagine your foot comes to you. I'm looking for myself. Where do I walk to? Where am I? I'm sure I'm here somewhere. Right? Well, walk left. Okay. There's a guru over there that says walk that way. Okie dokie. Sit down there and look within. Okay. Still, okay. But none of that's right. It's all looking. It's all looking. What would you tell your foot? You pat it on the head. God, that must be tough. Take a rest. So you just see through the game. You just see through the game. You just see through the game till the game has no more power. You can't figure it out.